I am using. I gathered stash, created the base page, so you can see the base papers are there. I already had my photos selected and backed with some papers from my stash. I'm using a mix of Chamel Lane, I think Dear Lizzie, and some Paige Taylor Evans, if I'm correct, for papers. And then I have a lot of, I believe, Citrus Twist labels and some Allie Edwards chipboard, I think, and then some Paige Taylor Evans, and then a couple things that are so old I don't know where they're from. So I made the little banners just by cutting them out with my scissors, and I'm just laying them out, making sure that the colors are not, like I have enough so that like two orange banners won't be next to each other, or two blue banners won't be next to each other. And then what you saw is what I usually do is I add my adhesive to all of them at once, so it's just easier, but I spare you guys seeing that. I have loved using labels right now as bases for my embellishment clusters. I tend to like to either like punch out circle shapes or punch out like ticket shapes, or use labels as the bases for my embellishment clusters. I really loved this layout. I felt like it was kind of busy, but not so busy that it didn't work. Somehow it works with the layout. And the photos are documenting turning 30 during COVID, during 2020. And birthdays have always been a huge deal in our family. And so I was a little bit sad, a little bit uncertain about turning 30 during that time. I kind of had bigger plans to travel and do some kind of, I guess, maybe cooler things. But at the end of the day, a pandemic does change your perspective on things. And so I was just thankful that I was getting to turn 30 and be around the people I was closest to. So that was really nice. My aunt has a great backyard outdoor setup. And so it was just like my mom, my aunt, and my sisters. So it was really fun. There you can see I'm not just using sometimes one label, but sometimes I'm layering my labels. And again, trying to use different colors in each cluster. So, I like to have the same motifs. So for example, like a flower in every cluster or a label in every cluster, but I also like to make sure that I'm using some of the same colors. So I might use a pink flower in one embellishment cluster and something else pink that's not necessarily a flower in a different embellishment cluster, just so I have the same kind of color scheme or tones of color in each cluster. That's just how I work. To me, it also helps me when I'm mixing and matching different collections. So if they're kind of close to the same shade of pink, and I'm putting them in different clusters that are not right next to each other, I feel like you can kind of get away with it more, and it makes me feel more confident. That's just kind of like what I do. Or if I'm using blues, maybe I have a blue flower from one collection and a blue camera from another collection. If you put them right next to each other, maybe they're not the exact same color blue, but when you put them in an embellishment cluster that's maybe 5 or 6 inches from each other, you can't really tell, and so it ends up looking cohesive and like it goes together. That's just kind of how I work. I've had some people either comment that they like how I can mix different collections, or people will ask me, how I feel confident to do that. And a big thing is just, I've watched so many scrapbooking YouTube videos over the years. I feel like the more I watch other people do it, the more confident I am. I've also subscribed to scrapbooking kits for a really, really long time. And I feel like that really helps help me kind of grow my confidence and be like, oh, somebody who's a, quote unquote professional who I pay for this service thought that this and this go together. I wouldn't have thought that, but they're totally right. It does go together. And so then that helps me when I'm looking through my own stash. I kind of try to think like, would I potentially see this in a hip kit club? Or, the last one I subscribed to was Hip Kit Club, so I can't really think right now off the top of my head for another kit club. But that's kind of how I think. And right now I have a pause on my Hip Kit Club subscription because being in Canada, like I was getting it so late, and it wasn't their fault. It's just customs and stuff is a nightmare in my opinion. So the only kit that I get right now is Allie Edwards Story Kit and Story Stamp. Other than that, I'm just placing my own orders because I just don't like having to wait so long, because I see everybody create these projects, and by the time I get the stuff, I feel like everybody's moved on and I want to move on with everybody. So anyway, I kind of went on a little spiel there, but I was just talking about, building confidence to use up my stash. And the other thing is, usually kind of like when, you're in school and you take a test, usually your first gut instinct for what the answer is usually the correct one. And so I kind of go with that. If I pulled it out to work on the layout, I really do try to get it in, like, on the layout, because there's a reason I thought it went with all the papers I'm using. I'm also finding that I was getting to the very end of my stash, and so it's kind of time to replenish on certain supplies within reason. I definitely am trying to keep my scrapbooking. I apologize. I had a phone call come in. I'm trying to keep my scrapbooking kind of stash or collection to a certain kind of size, because I want to be able to keep it in the Calyx unit, the Calyx drawers, and my Alex drawers that I have. I don't really want it to like outgrow that per se, because I know I can maintain this and I'm really enjoying using it up. Anyway, another thing that I think really ties in embellishment clusters with different kind of colors and schemes is the enamel dots, or these are sequins with adhesive on them from Close to My Heart. I love them. I bought them in like every color. And then here I'm just drawing with a pen sort of the banner string instead of using actual string. And here are some close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do have a sketch scraps layout from all the scraps from this layout coming up soon, so stay tuned for that as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.